first glimpse that I want to think about with you is, what role do the funding regimes play in the ethical choices or the unethical choices we make on admission requirements, on allowing students into the system and allowing them to not be successful? How do the funding regimes impact on the choices we have to be more ethical? So there's different sources of funding. Increasingly, we see that higher education is forced to look for funding outside of government funding and national funding regimes. And how does that impact on the ethical choices we have and make? What is the purpose of the funding? Often the funders come with very specific requirements. And how do these impact on the choices we make? And then lastly, with regard to funding, we have to consider how we can use funding as a lever to encourage and to create an enabling environment where we can actually be ethical in our teaching and learning. The second point I want to consider with you is the role of access. There's increasing demand for higher education. What are the ethics involved in allowing students into the system but not providing them with support, or not providing them with critical engagement opportunities to assess their own learning potential and to offer them exit levels which is appropriate to what they wanted to learn? So equal opportunities do not necessarily translate into fairness and care. And now the dilemma is, how do we scale our caring for students with different abilities, different potential, and different needs? The third thing is the issue of cost. An international trend is the rising student debt. And on the other hand, we see a degree inflation where students achieve a 4-year degree or a 3-year degree and they cannot find employment. So on the one hand, you have the rising cost of higher education, and on the other hand, you have degree inflation. How do we ensure that we offer affordable education for as wide range of students that is possible and scalable and affordable for both the institution as well as for students, and yet to ensure that our degrees will make a difference? The fourth point that we need to consider is our curricula and our assessment. We often forget that the higher education institution determines the curriculum, often with input from stakeholders. And we often forget that while we've provided students with access into higher education, we forget the notion of epistemological access. That students come with different epistemologies and often different ontologies, ways of seeing the world. What are the ethics involved in possibly creating more than one pathway through a curriculum with the same outcomes, but allowing for different epistemological backgrounds? We often work in disciplinary silos where one discipline doesn't speak to the other, and the curriculum is comprised out of chunks of different knowledges from a range of disciplines, and there's no curriculum coherence, which is also unfair and basically unethical. What is the purpose of higher education? Is it employment? Is it increasingly unemployment? Or is the program that we offer and the programs we offer, are they allowing students to make choices to live a dignified life where they can be as well as they possibly want to be? The fifth thing that I would like to touch upon is an issue of student data and support. We increasingly rely on student data to make decisions on not only the support we offer to them, but whether they are affordable, whether we can afford to spend a certain amount of resources on them to improve their chances of success. And the notion of educational triage is back at the forefront, where we actually walk through this battlefield and identify learners that can survive with a minimal amount of care, students that we want to spend resources on and get them back into the system and get them through the system as fast as possible. And increasingly, and that's an ethical dilemma, we increasingly identify at-risk students, students that if they don't proceed fast enough, we will exclude and prevent them from continuing. The last point is the notion of faculty, the redefinition of faculty. with the funding constraints, with the regulatory environment changing, with the potential of technology just offering us so many other opportunities and ways of engaging with facilitators of learners and students, we see an increasing casualization of faculty, where faculty are outsourced, where we have contract workers teaching without the benefits, without the enabling environment, often with zero contracts. And while that is one of the increasingly disturbing trends in higher education, we need to engage with, if higher education is a moral practice, what are the ethics involved in allowing people to teach, to develop curricula, to assess, without also providing them an enabling environment to live dignified lives?